Well, hello everybody and welcome to our panel session that's going to explore the impact of AI on the consumer experience. I'm not Tom Pringle, in case you're wondering. My name's Eden Zoller. I'm Principal Analyst with Ovum Smart Living Practice, and I'm going to be moderating the panel this morning. AI is complex, fast-moving, and has vulnerabilities and challenges on just about every level. It's also clouded by hype and misconceptions, and this is all on a good day. But there's also no doubt that AI is a force for positive change. It's driving service and innovation. It's transforming the way that we interact with customers across multiple scenarios in the smart home, assisted living, TV and video services, communications, customer care, marketing, sales and support, among other things. AI is not only transforming the way we do business, but it's transforming our day-to-day lives. Now, this panel session is going to throw a spotlight on these and other themes that impact the consumer experience. It's difficult territory to navigate, but we've got a stellar lineup to help us through this. And we've got members from Orange, from Telefonica, from BT and Nuance. And before we move into the discussion, I'd like to invite the panel members to briefly introduce themselves.
Sure. So, hello everybody, and good morning. Thank you for joining this session. So my name is Andres Alvar Gonzalez. I'm the Marketing Director for the Nuance Telco Business Unit. And for those who doesn't know Nuance, we have been maybe one of the first companies who have just taken AI from laboratory more than 20 years ago into commercial deployments, mainly driven by voice recognition and applying that technology to first the customer care environment in multiple sectors, healthcare, financial services, insurance, but then later on into new verticals from telco to auto industry, and with always the same focus, voice being the prime driver of the user experience and how we interface with the technology with the most natural way that is just speaking to it. So, and I'm delighted just to join this session, Ellen, with big drivers of what is going to be the digital transformation. And I'm glad just to say that we at Nuance, we work with each one of them in customer care, in the digital home, but also on what is just the transformation for carriers to become digital service providers.
Thank you. Patrice.
Hello, I'm Patrice Lepowski. I'm in charge of digital innovation at Orange, which means that my team is working mainly with topics around platforms. So everything we do that with partners, developers, etc. And those platforms are speaking about AI, IoT, data, all the fancy names, I would say. My take on AI is that it remembers my early days at the university, where I used to play with AI almost 30 years ago. And I'm happy to see that good ideas end up finding their market.
Hello, so my name is José Ramón Gómez. I am Senior Product Manager in the Aura team in Telefonica, so I work with Chema. And I'm responsible for the product delivery at a global level. So that means bringing the Aura product to every country where Telefonica is and the Telefonica footprint, and also to create the value proposition about the product and how to apply these artificial intelligence technologies and cognitive capabilities to improve and to create a new customer relationship with our customers. So I'm delighted to be here with the partners. Thank you very much.
You're not a skater yourself.
I'm not a skater like Chema, but we support him.
Okay.
Simon.
Yeah. I'm Simon Thompson. I'm from BT. I work for BT Research up in Martlesham Heath. And BT's been using AI for 25 plus years. I'm an AI researcher. My career in BT has been about creating solutions for supporting the customer experience in BT. We use AI to design the networks. We use it to make decisions about what we're going to do with the network. We use it to support delivery, so the field scheduling systems, the roster management systems, for instance. And we use AI to support the customer experience in terms of understanding customer journeys, understanding business processes, mining business processes, and working out what interventions are appropriate for customers to support their use of our products.
Okay, thank you. That's great context setting. So let's move into the questions. I mentioned earlier that sort of AI is shrouded by a lot of hype and misconceptions, and I think it can make it quite hard to determine where it's going to have the biggest effect on the consumer experience. For example, is it going to be high visibility touch points like chatbots, digital assistants like Aura, or is it going to be more sort of behind the scenes automation that has far-reaching impact but's more hidden from the consumer? So where is AI going to have the biggest impact on the consumer experience?
So that is maybe one of the key questions that all of us as drivers of innovation, we're just trying to figure out. The reality is that you have just mentioned two concepts like visible and hide. And we have been just living with AI for quite a long time. If you think, I mean, most of us in this audience, we have been just using things like predictive testing, just to use our smartphone. Who remembers T9? That was predictive testing that we were using, just to type messaging and being part of the first step into enhancing the user experience on the smartphones and feature phones also by then. But now we're just, and since 2011, there was Shake, I would say. 2011 was when suddenly Siri came aboard, and for the normal people, that was AI. That was the first touch point on a visible application of what is the user experience in a smartphone, in my daily life. It was very driven by command and control, funky things, tell me a joke, those things that you were just being introduced as part of the natural day life. Well, that is Shake, because suddenly, from that moment, everybody was just talking about virtual assistants, AI as a driver for the consumer. And that was a shake also for the market, because it was no longer those laboratory guys just working with a bunch of data just to build language corpus and speech recognition technologies, but something that you can use on your daily life. From there, then AI has just become a big mantra. Everybody uses AI. It is a concept that everybody is an expert, but you need just to show that you can deliver. So we are just facing this next phase where AI from a consumer experience perspective is no more a command and control approach for user experience, but it's more like something that should be part of knowing who are you and arriving to the personalization. That is the next frontier, personalization, knowing about me and doing in a non-intrusive way. And this is a very complex balance. How can you build a model and an AI go-to-market where you just are able just to personalize the user experience, but also knowing that you are the owner of that data. And we have just heard from Tema on the previous session, carriers are just thinking and considering that in a serious way. So data is the new oil. And that means that there's money underneath data. So it has been really the high oil that was just used by some innovators. Before this session, we were just talking about the market value of those digital players 10 years ago and how they were just, I'm not going to say insignificant, but now they are just bigger than some of the economies from the European countries. So they have unlimited access to money to do and run tests and trial. And there is still opportunities, just to make AI a vertical approach for just enhancing the user experience. And in my case, and also for all of us who are here in the telco space where we are experts.
Patrice, what do you think? Do you agree with that? Do you have a different perspective at Orange?
Yeah, so I'm not going to repeat the things. I agree with you. One of my favorite sentences when I was coming back to that topic was AI is the new UI. I like to collect those sentences, which are sometimes telling more than 30-minute speeches I could make about that. But it is really the idea that with regards to customer experience, we've been trying to enhance interfaces by having less clicks, less forms to fill, etc. And we were having systems like voice-enabled systems with which you have nothing more than a wake-up word and an utterance that you're giving to an assistant like Jingo and you get a response. Or systems where you don't have anything to say because of the prediction that can be made that you're going, it's 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. in the night and you want to get back home. So it's natural that the system will give you the better route that you will take. So the artificial intelligence and customer knowledge is going to be used to ease your life. Mm-hmm. So after that first sentence, we were trying sometimes to give a definition to this AI, and there are several which are existing in the market. Some are taking things which are very serious about considering that we should only speak about AI when it's touching real AI technology, which are based on some neuronal networks and advanced capabilities. Some are taking a very extensive definition where every time a computer is entering into a conversation, this is called AI. On my side and our side, we have chosen not to try to define precisely and to consider that there are a lot of things that we can do thanks to the use of data. That it is probably one of the new currencies of the coming world, and that we have to use that, and this is the priority, to enhance the customer interaction we're having. And as we are keen to develop quality customer interaction and customer experience for the customer, we try to use data as much as possible to facilitate that, and with something which is respecting the full right of the customers, because we are now, and we're happy with that, in a GDPR-based world where privacy matters and we are giving back the control to the user.
Okay, José Ramón?
Yeah, so Eden, you asked about the hype about AI and the noise and so on. So in Telefonica, we want to apply the AI and the cognitive technologies to make a new relationship with the customers based on trust. That means cover their user needs and also drive some business goals. And for that, like Chema said in the previous session, so we create Aura to be applied in multiple channels in the form of a conversational agent. So be able to ask queries and respond with typical telco domains, but also something that you can use on a daily basis, like the TV domain. So search a TV movie from Brad Pitt or playing from the beginning. Things like that, so that it can feel the stickiness of using that every day. And we are seeing some numbers in the traction that people asking the agent and so on have, I would say that 81% of retention. That means that these people don't call to the customer center. So that is a good number in order to say that that could drive a huge reduction in costs. So that's one driver goal about that. But also on the user level, you can see that users can talk naturally. My daughter can talk naturally to Aura in order to play some cartoons and something like that. You can get response and answers in real time. You don't need to wait in the customer center 4 minutes in order to get something. And I agree with my partners, it's all about personalization, all response and so on. I would say that we're going to go beyond. So it's not just wait for a query for someone. It's also that there's machine learning algorithms running on top of the data in order to suggest new things, to take proactive decisions, or even suggest a new tailored tariff, or even a new device recommended for upgrade. So that means that could also help in driving new revenue streams. So combining solving customer needs and also driving business goals, that's a combination.
Okay, Simon.
It's really exciting because we don't know where it's going. And the reason we don't know is because we're in a complex situation. There's a very complex triangle of drivers here. There's the users and perception. It was really heartening to hear people talk about trust and control, and I would add rights and freedom into that. There is a big issue of people having their rights prescribed by algorithms and making decisions for them. And we must allow users to continue to have the right to choose and to make their own selections and being able to make proper choices as well. And they must come to trust the systems. This is fundamental, and Aaron is in the front row there, and I work with Aaron at TMF. We've got a standards activity just now looking at management standards for AI systems. My colleague Rob Claxton's running that as chair. And this is all about building the infrastructure of trust into the systems that we're building so that we can account properly for what they do, so that we can continue to be responsible for the actions of the systems, because we are responsible, because we can't delegate responsibility. You can delegate anything, but you can't delegate responsibility. That's you. It's on you still. But we need a mechanism to continue to support that. We need infrastructure to support that. We need transparency in the system so users can actually understand what's going on and continue to have their rights of freedom. So that's one part of the triangle of the complex landscape. Another part of the triangle is money. Right, money is fundamental about where we're going to end up with AI, what the big impact's going to be. The issue I face constantly, and I'm sure many people in the telecoms industry have this as well, which is that you have to get your business cases through, and business cases built on aspirational revenue targets are extremely challenging to get agreed. Business cases built on proven cost savings are very easy to get agreed, okay? So it's really hard to deliver an aspirational business case. It's very easy to deliver a concrete one. So for that reason, we're very successful, I think, in delivering AI systems supporting the business operations, because it's very easy to materialize the costs, construct the business case, prove the business case, get the investment to do it, okay? But then there's another aspect. A lot of people have aspirational ideas about cost savings, which are based on aspirational ideas around the technology. It is possible to create great demos that show you really advanced interface performance. Actually taking those through into real-world situations is very challenging. It's the Richard Feynman at the Challenger inquiry issue. You can't fool nature, right? The reality is we don't have a lot of the capabilities in AI technology that we wish we did have. A lot of stuff is still not possible. And it may become possible. It may well not become possible. It might be 50, 100 years before we have some of the capabilities that we would need to automate some of the tasks that we would like to automate. So that we have to bear that in mind when we're designing things. And, you know, I often see people constructing chatbots, chat interfaces, for very simple problems, you know, like enhanced FAQ. And the question there is, well, why would you use that complex technology to do a simple job? Okay, why wouldn't you use the simpler technology to achieve that goal? So I think there's going to be a big negotiation between those three factors, and when we work through that negotiation, we'll end up where we end up.
No, that's a good segue into the second theme I wanted to raise. And actually, we're discussing this in the green room. You know, we've talked about some of the potential benefits of AI. You know, we can see that from some of the stories you shared. But there's no getting away from the fact that AI does come with considerable challenges. So I really wanted to think next, you know, what do we need to look out for? What are some of the pitfalls? You know, we started off looking at sort of where AI can have a positive or the most impact on the consumer experience. And we focus quite a lot on sort of AI digital assistants. We run our own annual consumer insight survey. And one of the questions is, what people don't like about their digital assistants. And without fail, they complain about the user interface, particularly the voice interface. They're worried about data privacy. They also think that digital assistants aren't particularly useful. There's no benefit. So clearly there are a couple of issues here. But in your experience, what are the main dangers? What are the pitfalls? How do we provide the best experience? And how do we avoid any public mistakes? Andres.
Wow. So, well, that is the reality. And I was just sharing with Eden, and I encourage all those who are in the audience just to take the report that was just given as a lead left at the very entrance, where there are facts in terms of feedback from consumers when they just interact with the user experience that we put in place as part of virtual assistants. The fact that they don't trust, that they don't like the user experience, that they need just to learn more. Wow, that is a challenge for us. We, as owners of P&L and owners of an investment, there's no benefit of just investing on the technology if by the end there is no take-up rates and people are not using it. And we have been just encouraging deployments of technology that by the end was really more like a laboratory research effort just driven by engineering teams, and but losing the key element, that is that if the user is not really embracing the user experience, you are done. So having a virtual assistant that is not being used means that you have a problem, but it is a double problem, because all AI is driven by data, and it is improved by the usage. And if you are able just to make that happen, you have ongoing cycle of just performing better because they are using it. And if they are not using it, you are dead. At this stage, my biggest challenge, and I'm going to give this for you guys, is that when we as, let's say, subject matter experts just very much focus on the AI world, we write to carriers, it is not as easy as having a vision that data is the new oil. Is that then you need just to implement that. You need just to embrace that there's a need to have a data lake, that it's a shift, it's a transformation from the complete organization. I know that Chema has just shown a lovely picture showing what is the ideal architecture for an AI deployment, but then we were talking that organizations like Orange, Telefonica, we are talking about 150, 120,000 employees, that they are not on the digital service provider world. You have owners of legacy platforms, that they see those legacy platforms are the kingdom, and the data is my data. So if I just give you access to that data, then I'm just losing power. So you are just jumping onto that.
Well, I was thinking, I was from backstage, I was looking at one of the slides Shema was presenting about the architecture, and I was thinking, this is fascinating. When you're a cool guy, you can show even ugly slides. That's
Don't pull your punches.
I'm doing the contrary. I'm putting cool slides. You will see next time if you invite me for a keynote. No, it was great, and don't get me wrong on this one. I think that the vision is extremely interesting. Well, I think that there are challenges everywhere. This is so new as a topic. I mean, not only the digital assistants, which are taking most of the interest of not only the market but the media, the people, etc. This is what they're speaking about, because it's one of the main themes which have been in the science fiction, in the movies, etc. So it's just about people. So they want to know if they're going to have conversations with a new kind of half human persona that is going to be part of the family. I remember my daughter a few weeks ago, she was back home telling me, you know what, my dance teacher, first name is Alexa. Just think of her life now. This is why we've chosen Jingo, by the way.
Oh, good choice. José Ramón?
Yeah, so that's definitely a very good, I mean, it's a challenge to bridge the gap between the customers and the technology and so on for the solution. So in Telefonica, our approach is what we call active listening. So we are constantly looking at the data and at the logs on how our customers are interacting with Aura. So that will give you a sense on how to shape the product in a way that can be more useful, more appealing for the customers. I would say that also we are doing like more than 26 user research on personality, on interaction from the users, and from that we see some insights about what they're expecting our customers about that. They're expecting some assistant or some technology that is like the sense of wisdom, right? That knows everything, that can be practical, so they can do things and get done, right? So this, we take it very seriously, the user research and that active listening constantly in order to reshape the product. Because if we don't have the customers, linking together in the product evolution, we're lost. The second thing is from the personality things, from user research, we're challenging in the way of shaping Aura into more familiar with the small talk thing, so that it's not just a cold assistant, it's more human-like, right? And that is also very, very interesting. And the other thing is not to touch or not to lose the human touch. So in the end, if you are starting a conversation, then maybe the bot, the AI, could answer you to maybe a lot of things. But in the end, for sensitive topics, you have to be there with a human. So we use the combination of bot or machine and then human agent for sensitive topics, like create the sense of trust, which is, for me, is the magical word for that.
And Simon?
So it's sensitive, right? So this is modern thinking, this is great. For me, it's about value. I'm old-fashioned. The reason is because it's that unusual element, right? It's the thing that AI is very good at normal things, and this comes from statistics. So we can look in the audience here. Because of the way statistics work, most people here will have a high degree of similarities in various dimensions. So mostly around a particular age group. There's nobody in the audience who's either very young or very, very old. Maybe there's one or two people. Different lifestyle choices, probably mostly rather predictable. But the interesting people, they're the ones on the edge of the distributions. They're the ones with the stories and the experiences to share that the rest of us don't have, right? Who've lived their lives a bit differently, who could maybe teach us something. Because we've heard the same stories. My story is very similar to a lot of people, so there's not much to learn there. But there are some people in this audience who will have something that could teach us all, right? And that is the big problem with AI, because it's driven out of the normal situation. It's driven from the well-known, the expected. And you can see this in all the papers. You see, it's 96%. We get 96%, which means we can do the usual stuff. But the problem is, it's the unusual, the situation, where sensitivity is required or where insight's required. And that's where the value is, because that's your customer in crisis. That's the customer who needs help. It's the customer that you can't deflect very easily. And that's the point of churn. That's the point of disillusionment. That's where the value will leak out of the engagement. I think there's a long way to go to get the technology to be able to act in a convincing way. There's a really interesting thing about assistants. Nuance was spun out of SRI years and years ago, and I knew the guys who did Siri at SRI, because Siri is somewhat from SRI, as you might guess from the name. And SRI is a big defense contractor, right, in Stanford, and it's called SRI because it used to be part of Stanford, but then there were riots, and so they spun it out and they called it SRI. And it does defense things, and it did this massive project called Kalo. which is for Special Forces assistance. And Kalo was the first really modern assistant. But the interesting thing about Kalo is the way it's evaluated isn't around percentages, it's around interviews. And all the Kalo users around the world, and the US military is quite big, when Kalo was still running, I think Kalo's, I don't know, but where Kalo is now. But they used to have yearly interviews with these people. They used to talk to them, an in-depth 150 questions to evaluate how well Kalo was doing, so that they could start to handle the corner cases. So they could develop technology to handle the corner cases. And I think there's a big gap.
Interject slightly because I'm being waved at.
Oh.
Camille, have we got time for just one quick rapid round? Yeah, just okay. A final question. Let's really zip around. Maybe pepper it with a couple of other things that you haven't had a chance to share. But basically, what next for AI in the consumer experience domain? Is it going to be about incremental improvements to the voice interface? Are we going to see sort of conversational abilities of ilk of sort of Google Duplex, for example? So, Andres, what's happening next?
So I can just say that next is now. So, and in my case, what I can just say is that what we are envisioning is that driven by the personalization, it is so important just to identify who is interacting with the virtual assistants and with the AI systems. So something that Nuance has announced in IBC is that we are integrating as part of the AI machine learning and motors voice biometrics. And that is going to be part of core technologies that we just presented in multiple industries. So whenever you jump into a car, the car is going to be identified who is the driver, who is on the right side, who is the person just sitting in the.
And Patrice, what's next for you?
I have to say that we're training, for instance, the assistants. Jingo is being trained every day, so it's going to be better and better. It is absolutely true that some of the challenge will be facing are the idea that we don't want to overpromise anything to the customers because we don't want to create any disappointment. So not only people have to get a very clear explanation on what's coming for them, but they have also we have also to make sure that they have good mechanisms in terms of discovery, because it's not easy to understand quite immediately what an assistant or what a system may be able to do, and you don't want to learn a long list of things that you can ask it. So it has to be very good in terms of discovery. So we'll keep on working on all that, and of course try to be using in a very relevant way all the data which is going to be available.
Jose Ramon, in a
So
nutshell, what's
first topic, learning. I agree with Patrice and Andres. Second topic will be ethical. So how to put control on some situations in which the customer is spending a lot because it's on roaming. Is it ethical from Telefonica point of view to stop that because maybe he's not aware of that situation? So ethical. And the third will be ubiquity. So the idea that there will be no more silos, so it's rather interconnection of AI platforms so that you can ask to Google Assistant in an entry point and ask about Aura for several reasons. So anything is ready there, wherever the customers are.
And Simon, final word.
So I think I totally agree with what my colleagues have said. Absolutely brilliant points. I think I'd add that I think we'll see a splintering of applications and a specificity of applications developed. I think it is increasingly easy to do the engineering behind AI. It requires specialized technology, specialized people, but you can go very fast now. You can develop very impressive things very fast. But I think focus on specific applications is going to come in. And an analogy I would draw is with Bloomberg terminals, where there was a general purpose information source that supported thousands of functions that users found it very hard to navigate. And now I think, talking to friends in the city, a lot of times people are using more specialist devices to support their particular type of trading, their particular type of information need. And I see that coming into the consumer world where people start to have their own tools to support them for their own particular need.
That's great. I mean, that was a rapid-fire gallop through a very complex and rich topic. It's now time for the coffee break. We don't have time for a Q&A, but I'm sure the panel members will be happy to sort of pick up the conversation. So thank you very much to our panel members.
Thank you.